Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Last of Us Infected Analysis. It's been a while. I took off a week for to celebrate Christmas and haven't had some other stuff going on, so just took off a week. Hopefully, you guys had a Merry Christmas, whatever it is you celebrate, and we're going right back into Infected Analysis and better content ahead. Regenerated, kind of took a little bit of a break, and I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be back making content and for you guys. So, yeah, Last of Us Effect Analysis. Today, it's going to be the clicker, the third stage in the infected process. So, as always, I'm getting this info from the Last of Us fandom. Great site, I can't stress that enough. Clickers appear less human than runners and stalkers, with faces that are completely skewed and scarred by fungus developed from their infected brains, often only leaving behind a maw of jagged teeth. By this point, whatever clothes the host may have been wearing are mostly tattered and destroyed. Clickers claw and scratch their fungal growth on their eyes as if trying to get rid of their blindness, especially when immobile. The growth forms large patches of scale-like tissue that glow in the dark. The patches are seemingly an earlier stage of the fungal infection growing out of the host's bodies. These fungal plates have adapted to keep the host alive and to spread. In fact, a direct shot to the face with a powerful weapon such as a revolver will only break off a chunk of the mold, leaving the clicker's brain unharmed. This makes them deadlier, but at a price of being completely blind due to the fungal infection taking over the face. However, clickers are able to maneuver areas by utilizing echolocation, which produces notable clicking and screeching noises to locate sources of the sound, hence their name. Like runners, clickers can sometimes be found in a passive state. Clickers are dangerous and much more aggressive than runners and stalkers, with the human host no longer conscious enough to resist the infection, to the extent as the latter too. Um, they seem to have enhanced strength. They can overwhelm and kill Joel if grappled, and always succeed if attacking humans, like the group at the Mountain Plaza. So you could attract them by throwing a brick or a bottle. It also helps. Um, and the clickers, in my opinion, are very scary. Like just the whole and like when you really go into the nitty gritty of it all and the details of like what they actually look like and how they function. They're one of the scarier of the infected, and they're actually they're the most scariest infected you see early on in the game. Of course, there's much scarier infected, but that's the scariest infected you see early in the game. So that's your first impression of new infected besides Stalker and the runner. You guys see them first in the game, but they're the scariest of the bunch, if that makes sense. So, clickers also possess high intelligence, never leaving an area when they have heard prey run by them, and will constantly check every available nook and cranny to locate the source of the sound with little regard giving up on the task at hand. However, their echolocation is crude compared to creatures like bats, as they will not notice that something is alive or moving unless it is directly in front of them. This supports the assumption of the front being where the clicks are sounded, as their faceplates are shaped like a megaphone, directing it straight ahead of them but not all around. When provoked, a clicker will immediately enter into berserk mode, aggressively flailing its arms and roaring. At this point, if a survivor has not been spotted, quote unquote, by a clicker, the clicker will attack head on and will not flinch when shot, unless the player is using high powered rounds. So yes, the clicker they basically see you. Like when you attract sound to yourself in the game, they basically see you and they know exactly where you are, regardless that they're blind, because they could technically see you using their echolocation. Um, and all let's talk about their combat. Punching a clicker with bare hands is ineffective. After 3 punches, the player will not have time to back away, and it will be instantly grappled by the clicker. This is especially if the clicker is in berserk mode. When it overrides the player's punch, it is recommended that the player use a melee weapon if they use this form of attack. If not, the ideal weapons to use are the shotgun, El Diablo, and the flamethrower, because they, when used effectively, guarantee a kill. In all games, it is easy to outrun a clicker, as their crude echolocation has short range, and unlike runners or stalkers, they move at a moderate pace. The cannibals realize this, avoiding guaranteed defeat in a close combat, and attacking with firearms from a distance when they were safer. When far enough away or behind cover, the clicker will get confused and click in all directions. This makes them easy to avoid, as the player simply has to crouch behind cover. The echolocation only ranges a few feet unless the player fires a gun. In The Last of Us, if the player is grappled by a clicker, they can save their life if they have a Shiv at least level 1 of the Shiv Master skill, unless the player is playing on easy mode. When they already have the skill, if not, clickers will bite the player, resulting in a game over. It is possible to avoid or distract clickers instead of fighting them directly by throwing bottles or bricks, therefore keeping one's distance preferable to melee combat against clickers. And left behind, Ellie can easily dispatch unaware clickers in the front with her switchblade by standing still and waiting for them to walk toward her. This also works if they're investigating the sound of a thrown bottle. If the player wants to use stealth, clickers can be killed by either using a shiv, bow and arrow, or crossbow. However, using arrows to kill a clicker requires a headshot or 2 chest shots, which will alert them, so unless done fast enough, the player will be detected. Further, arrows typically break when piercing a clicker's fungal armor. Players can also shiv clickers in the front, provided they are in the same passive state. Clickers that are active can only be shivved safely while the player is behind them, although having the Shiv Master unlocked allows the player to shiv them if grappled. Crossbow arrows are also more durable, so the likelihood of regaining the arrow is greater with this weapon. Clickers are extremely susceptible to Molotov cocktails, and groups of clickers can be taken down by them. That's my favorite way, by the way. When encountering multiple clickers, simply throw a Molotov in the middle of the area. Upon hearing the sound of the bottle breaking, all clickers will beeline for the noise, and in the process walk right into the flames, burning themselves to death. If stunned with a brick first, the player can kill clickers with melee attacks. If done successfully, the player can sprint towards them and finish them off with a running melee strike. A running punch combo can also work, but it's riskier. The method can be attempted approaching the clicker in the front. Through the back, it's usually the safer option. They could also kill a clicker with just 3-hit combo from the brick. But this can be dangerous as well. If done when the clicker is in berserk mode while rare, it is also possible to kill the clicker when it grabs an AI partner using one's fists. So very interesting combat strategies. Those are a few of the combat strategies that you could go on while go about while trying to fight off the clicker. Very interesting. It's definitely a step up from the runner and the stalker that we've already talked about. Definitely more interesting and really going into it, like I said, about the clicker and how it works. And talking about The Last of Us, The Last of Us remake, the Part 1 remake that they just made, seeing the clicker in that format, very interesting as well. Very kind of, it looks better, definitely better and revamped. When it, really gets into the details of the clicker, and very interesting. But my final opinion on the clicker is it's scary. That's what I think about the clicker. Probably, I wouldn't say, it's kind of in the middle of my favorite infected, but that's not, it's not necessarily my favorite infected, but it's up there. Very scary creature. Very interesting kind of clicker, and it's interesting that they introduced echolocation and kind of how that working out, and echolocation is a very interesting way to have an infected, that's kind of their special ability to be able to echolocate, kind of like bats. They're like big scary bats, in the terms of them being blind. But yeah, interesting clicker. I like the clickers. Good addition to the game. Definitely provides a challenge. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for today's infected analysis. Make sure to subscribe for more content, like the video, all the good stuff. Discord, Twitch, Instagram, links in the description. We're back with content. It was a well-needed break for me on my part, and hopefully you guys' part too. But I'm glad to be back into a nice content routine. I have some good content for you guys cooking up, good ideas that I'm cooking up. So stay tuned, alright? Thanks for staying with the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video.